I never told my daughter I was the reason her adoption took so long because I was scared I'd ruin the first time she called me dad, and when she said I always knew you fought for me, I didn't have the heart to admit I almost didn't. This story is hard for me to write, but I think it's time. I'm 42, live in Kent, Washington. Work full-time at a hardware store, nothing special. I used to be in the Navy, got out at 28, tried to build a quieter life. I didn't want noise or chaos anymore. That was the plan. Then I met Tanya. She was beautiful but worn down, like life had kicked her one too many times. She worked at a diner near my apartment. First time I saw her, she was juggling 3 plates, a fussy toddler on her hip, and still managed to smile at me when I dropped my coffee trying to pay the bill. Her daughter was Naomi, just turned 2. She had this thick head of dark curls and eyes like she'd already seen too much. Tanya told me Naomi's dad disappeared before she was born. No child support, no visits. She didn't even list his name on the birth certificate. I didn't ask a lot of questions. I wasn't looking to be a dad. But something about Tanya and Naomi pulled me in. We started dating slow. I'd help watch Naomi when Tanya had doubles at the diner. I taught her how to catch frogs in the backyard and sing, "Twinkle, Twinkle," loud enough to scare off the neighbors. She started calling me Nate, then Daddy Nate. I'd be lying if I said it didn't scare me, but it also made me feel like I mattered. Tanya and I got married when Naomi was 5. That's when I decided I wanted to make it official, adopt Naomi. I wasn't her father by blood, but I felt like I'd earned it. I was there for every scraped knee, every preschool meeting, every nightmare. I thought the adoption would be easy. But that's when the ghost showed up. Marcus, Naomi's biological dad. He'd never been around, not once. Then out of nowhere, he hires a lawyer and says he wants to be in her life. Claims he found God. Says he's been sober for a year and is ready to take responsibility. Tanya was livid. She tried to track him down before. Nothing. No response. But now that someone else, me, wanted to step in as Naomi's father, he shows up pretending to be a changed man. At first, I thought it was a joke. But it wasn't. In Washington, biological parents have rights. Even deadbeats like him. So the judge delayed the adoption. Said Marcus deserved a chance to prove himself. That was the start of 3 years of hell. He'd show up to court wearing a pressed shirt and quoting scripture. He brought his new wife once. She smiled like she knew something we didn't. Marcus told the judge he wanted reunification. That Naomi deserved to know her real father. I wanted to punch him every time he said real. Meanwhile, Naomi had no clue what was going on. She just knew I couldn't sign her school forms. I wasn't allowed to call myself her legal dad. I wasn't allowed to make medical decisions without Tanya. I couldn't even take her on a school field trip without a letter of permission. It was humiliating. But worse than that, I started to doubt myself. I thought maybe she's better off with him. Maybe I'm just pretending. I'd never felt more useless in my life. I was exhausted. We kept going to court. Kept paying lawyers. I drained my savings. Sold my truck. I started picking up side work, fixing fences, unclogging gutters, whatever paid. But it still wasn't enough. And one night, I remember this too clearly, I packed a bag. I told Tanya I was going for a drive to clear my head. Truth is, I was planning to leave. I had this thought that maybe Naomi would be better off if I wasn't in the way. Maybe if I left, Marcus would get bored and disappear again. Maybe she'd get to have some kind of peace. I put my bag by the front door and went to her room, just to look at her one last time before I left. She was asleep, curled up in those ridiculous rainbow pajamas she loved, holding the stuffed bunny I gave her when Tanya and I first moved in together. And then, in her sleep, she mumbled, "Night, Daddy." That one word, Daddy. It broke me. She didn't even know I was there. She was talking in her sleep. But it wasn't Daddy Nate. It wasn't Nate. It was just Daddy. I sat on the floor of her room and cried harder than I did at my own dad's funeral. I never got in the car. I stayed. From that night on, I fought like hell. Tanya and I dug up everything we could. We found old police reports, talked to Marcus's ex-girlfriends, found out he wasn't as clean as he claimed. He'd missed meetings, lied about his job, and still owed child support for another kid he had in Yakima. We gave it all to our lawyer. Went to court again and again. I didn't miss a single hearing. Naomi's school photos, her birthday cards to me, videos of us fishing, baking, goofing off, we gave it all to the judge. And after nearly 3 years, it finally ended. The judge terminated Marcus's rights, said he'd had enough chances and didn't take them. Called my role in Naomi's life consistent and nurturing. I almost laughed when he said that. I didn't feel like either. But that day, Naomi became my daughter. Legally. Fully. Finally. She was 9. We went out for ice cream that night. She got mint chip and looked at me like she knew something big had changed. Then she said, "I always knew you fought for me, Dad." I nodded. But I didn't say what I should have. I didn't say I almost didn't. I kept that part to myself. Because I didn't want to ruin the first time she called me Dad without anything else after it. Things didn't get easier after the adoption. If anything, it got messier in a different way. After the court finalized everything, we were supposed to feel free. Like we'd won. Like we could finally breathe. But Marcus didn't disappear. 3 months after the ruling, we got a letter. Not from him, his new wife. Her name was Brianna. I opened the envelope and read it in the kitchen while Tanya cooked dinner. It started with, "As a mother myself, I beg you to reconsider." I stopped reading. Tanya snatched the letter from my hand, skimmed it, then tore it in half. She didn't even speak. Just slammed the pieces into the trash and went back to stirring the pot. But the letters kept coming. 3 more. All from Brianna. All full of passive-aggressive guilt-tripping. Marcus is devastated. He's in therapy now. Naomi will grow up with a hole in her heart. I never replied. I didn't even tell Naomi. I just filed them away in a box in the garage, behind a stack of old Christmas decorations. Then one day, Marcus showed up in person. It was a Saturday in May. Naomi was at a friend's house for a sleepover. Tanya was working an extra shift at the diner. I was out mowing the lawn when I saw a black Toyota pull up to the curb. And there he was. Hair slicked back. Nice shirt. Bible in hand. I walked over fast and told him he needed to leave. Now. He held up his hands like he came in peace. Said he just wanted to talk. I said no. He didn't raise his voice. He just looked at me and said she'll want to know who she really is someday. I didn't hit him. I wanted to. My hands were shaking. But I didn't give him what he wanted. He left eventually. But not before he slid a manila envelope under our mailbox. Inside was a photo album. Old baby pictures of Naomi. Some with Tanya. A couple I'd never seen before, like one where Naomi was maybe 6 months old lying on a hotel bed. Marcus holding her, fake smile, eyes glazed. There were also a few letters. One was labeled for Naomi when she's ready. That one broke me a little. I didn't tell Tanya right away. I hid the album in the garage box. Put it under the letters from Brianna. I told myself I was protecting Naomi. But part of me knew the truth. I was scared. Scared that one day she'd read it. See those pictures. And think I'd been hiding something big. That I lied. That I was scared of being replaced. Weeks passed. Then something changed. Naomi started asking questions. Not big ones. Just little comments. Like, did I look more like my real dad when I was little? Or, do you think he ever thought about me? I always told her the same thing. I don't know, honey. But I know I thought about you every day. She smiled at that. But I could tell something inside her was shifting. She was 10 now. Getting curious. I'd catch her looking at herself in the mirror a little longer. Studying her face. Then one day she asked straight out, "Do you know his name?" I froze. I didn't expect it so soon. I said yes. Then I lied, "But I don't think he wants to be found." She nodded. Didn't press. But that night, Tanya pulled me aside. She'd overheard. "She's going to find out," she said. I knew she was right. But I wasn't ready. Because here's the real twist. The part one never told anyone. Not even Tanya. Before the adoption was final, before the court ruled, Marcus made me an offer. He asked to meet me. Said he'd give up his parental rights if I paid him $15,000. I met him at a diner off Route 516. Sat across from him while he sipped coffee and kept his sunglasses on inside. He talked smooth like he was doing me a favor. Said he needed a clean slate. That God forgives, but debt collectors don't. I left without agreeing. But 3 days later I wired him the money. I sold the last of my Navy memorabilia, my medals, my shadow box, my service jacket. Maxed out a credit card. Paid him off and then lied to everyone. The judge never knew. Tanya never knew. That's how we won. Not just with evidence. Not with truth. but with silence. And a bribe. So now every time Naomi calls me dad, part of me feels like a fraud. Because I didn't just fight for her. I bought her. And if she ever finds that out, I don't know what it'll do to her. Or to me. Things came to a head last fall. Naomi had just started 6th grade. She was taller, quieter, and had gotten into the habit of spending more time in her room. I told myself it was just the age, the growing up, the middle school fog. But one night, Tanya found something on her Chromebook that ripped the floor out from under us. She was on Ancestry.com. Not just browsing. She'd started building a family tree. Tanya showed me the browser history. Naomi had searched Marcus's full name, which meant she knew it. I guess she'd either found it on an old paper or heard one of us say it years back. Maybe we let it slip once during a fight. Or maybe she just knew what to look for. Worse, she had messaged someone. Marcus's sister. I didn't even know she existed. The message was short. Just, "Hi, I think we might be related. My name is Naomi. I was born in 2012. My mom is Tanya." That was it. Tanya looked at me, eyes wide. What do we do? I didn't have an answer. All I could think was, it's starting. The thing I've been afraid of for 10 years. It's finally here. The next morning, Naomi was quiet at breakfast. She didn't look at me when I asked about her day. She just shrugged and grabbed her bag. I followed her out to the car. Asked if she was okay. She nodded, then stopped halfway in the driveway. If I found my real dad one day, would you be mad? It felt like someone pressed a knife to my chest. I said, you already have a real dad. She looked at me, dead serious. You know what I mean. I didn't answer. She got in the car and slammed the door. That night, I went into the garage. Pulled out the old box with the photo album. The letters. The manila folder Marcus left that day he showed up. And I read the letter he wrote for Naomi. I hadn't opened it before. It was handwritten. Sloppy but long. He talked about how he was a different man now. How he was sorry for the years he missed. How he knew he wasn't there when it counted, but he hoped one day she'd forgive him. And then at the bottom, in small shaky writing, you might hate me. I wouldn't blame you. But I gave you up because I knew I'd already failed. I knew someone else could do better. I hope he did. That line messed me up. Because I paid him to walk away. And yet somehow his last words sounded like love. Or maybe guilt. Or maybe just regret. I don't know. But it shook something loose in me. So I sat on the garage floor with that letter in my hands and knew I couldn't keep this from her forever. But I didn't get the chance. A week later, Naomi came home with a printout. Sat down across from me in the living room and slid it over. It was a DNA match. Marcus was listed at the top. Father, 50% shared DNA. I did the test, she said. He's real. I looked at Tanya. She didn't say anything. Just stood frozen at the edge of the room. Naomi's voice cracked. Why didn't you ever tell me? Why did you hide him? I tried to talk, but nothing came out. Everything I'd hidden, all the lies, the silence, the $15,000, it was all sitting on my tongue like poison. So I did the coward's thing. I said I didn't think it would help. She stared at me for a long time. Then said, you should have let me decide that. Then she went to her room and slammed the door. I didn't sleep that night. I sat outside her door until morning. I didn't knock. I just sat there. Tanya didn't say much either. But I could tell something between us cracked that night. It wasn't just Naomi that I betrayed. It was both of them. 3 days passed. No word from Naomi. No hugs, no good morning, no eye contact. She wasn't yelling. She wasn't crying. She just went quiet. And that quiet, it was worse than any screaming. Tanya slept on the couch. She said she needed space. I didn't fight it. I knew I deserved it. I had failed both of them, Naomi for hiding the truth and Tanya for keeping her in the dark about the payoff. Then one afternoon, while Tanya was at work and I was in the kitchen doing nothing but staring at the window, Naomi walked in holding the letter from Marcus. I read it, she said. I didn't ask how she found it. I knew exactly where it had been. She sat down across from me, folded her arms and asked, did you pay him to leave? I froze. She waited. I tried to talk my way around it. Naomi, you have to understand, he was trying to take you away. I was desperate. I was scared. Did you pay him? Yes. She stood up. Her face wasn't angry anymore. It was blank. Empty. You thought I'd never find out. But I did. She turned to leave and I stood up too. I did it to protect you. No, she said without turning around. You did it to protect yourself. And she was right. She called her aunt, the one from Ancestry. I didn't stop her. She packed a bag and said she wanted to spend the weekend with her. Said she needed to meet her family. Tanya didn't argue. Just stood there crying while Naomi walked out the door. I didn't cry. Not until I watched her hug the woman who shared her blood. Not until I watched the woman hug her back like she already knew Naomi was the best thing her brother ever gave up. Naomi stayed with them longer than the weekend. She came back the next Wednesday. And when she walked in, she had this look on her face I'll never forget, like she'd aged a year in 5 days. She sat me down. Tanya sat beside me. Naomi didn't waste time. I met him. My stomach dropped. He didn't lie, she said. About changing. About being sorry. But I told him I already had a dad. She paused. But I also told him he was the only one who ever gave me a choice. That one cut deep. Naomi looked straight at me and said, You didn't fight for me. You bought me. You didn't trust that I'd choose you. I couldn't speak. I just nodded. Then she looked at Tanya. You knew too. Tanya tried to explain. I didn't know until after. He told me a year ago. I begged him to tell you. Naomi shook her head. Both of you lied. We sat there in silence. The clock ticked loud. Then Naomi stood up and said something I'll never forget. I don't know if I can ever forgive either of you, but I'll still live here, because this is my home. But don't expect me to pretend anymore. She walked away. That was 2 months ago. She still lives here, still eats dinner with us, still says goodnight. But the word dad is gone. She calls me Nate now. Only Nate. And I deserve it. Because I tried to win her with silence and money. Because I thought I could bury a truth deep enough that love would cover it. But revenge doesn't always come with fists or fire. Sometimes it walks out the front door with a small suitcase and your last shred of dignity. Sometimes it just stops calling you dad. And that's a wound I earned. Every damn inch of it.